सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Can you hear me though, even if I'm speaking like, okay, good. So yesterday in our inquiry to the truth, we put in one very important factor into our analysis. That is the role of Bhagavan. Well, when I said Bhagavan, that's when this started also. Amazing. That role of that Bhagavan. This is one role that is often misunderstood. Some say that if this whole inquiry is into what is this real I, that's purely intellectual. What is the reason for Bhagavan in the first place then? Why must I even know it? Now, separating Bhagavan from Hinduism, we can't imagine the religion existing that way. Yet some people still make that distinction, saying Vedanta must be something separate from this entire Hindu paradigm here. That Vedanta doesn't equate or bring in this concept of Bhagavan. It's completely different from what Hinduism is. Let's explore what that is today. So today we start with this 23rd shloka, a beautiful one. Atmanamiksheta param prapashyet. Atmanamiksheta param prapashyet. Ityagamukte sudabho na bhavaha. Ityagamukte sudabho na bhavaha. Natmaiva drishyo yadika katheshe. Natmaiva drishyo yadika katheshe. Swayam tadanni bhavanam tadiksha. Swayam tadanni bhavanam tadiksha. Here it's said very clearly, this bhava that's mentioned here, nasulabha. It's not easy. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi readily admits that. And so it must not be easy. Then if he's even saying it, what is he saying it about? This idea that as one sees the self, one should see that Bhagavan. Self, capital S, meaning that supreme reality. Why is this confusion set in the first place? Because what I'm told is, me, this Hari Chaitanya, this Jiva, with this form, this is not the real I. The self is something beyond that. Yet it's telling me that Bhagavan, represented the same way as I am. I wear yellow clothes, that Bhagavan Hari wears yellow clothes. I have dark hair, that Bhagavan Hari has dark hair. That Bhagavan Hari is dark complexion, I am also, what can I do? So, I have so many similarities. The same form is there. Yet it's saying that form is exalted. That is to be accepted as the self. This form right here, this jiva, is not the self. That's what I'm told. Now, what is the difference there? There are different monikers that we can give this Bhagavan, this divine principle. Because the first objection that comes up when we bring up Bhagavan is, does that Bhagavan even exist? From your Bal Bihar students, I'm sure you hear that often. Does this Bhagavan exist? We say yes, without a doubt. Have you met him? No, I feel him. No, have you met him? No. Then how can you say he's real? Find me someone who's met him. Ishvara darshan is very hard to obtain. So how can we say Bhagavan is there? Now, we can logically come to that conclusion, though. A very simple logic we can go through. Starting out, it is, there must be some entity that gives me results for the actions that I perform. Simple as that. So let's start at the most basic level. Let's not bring Bhagavan into it. Let's start at the most basic level. Say that I give myself results for my own actions. Is that possible? I worked out, went to the gym this morning, rewarded myself with a chocolate cake after that. Every calorie I burned was negligible at that point, but I gave myself a result for the action that I did. But then if that were the case, if I were in control of giving myself results for my own actions, would I ever give myself a negative result? I never would. I would never get sick. I would never get hurt. None of those things would happen. Therefore, it's not me. So then I say, okay, another individual gives me the results of my actions. Another individual, another jiva. We know that our parents punished us, right? So another individual is giving me karma paladata right there. He's the karma paladata. But then for someone to give me results of my actions, that person must know every single action that I do. Thank God there's no one in this world, including my parents, that know every single action that I do, right? So that karma paladata cannot be another individual either. This karma paladata, the giver of the fruits of my action, must be someone who is all-knowing, sarvajna, sarva shaktiman, all-powerful, to give me the results also. Because there's no randomness. There must be a giver of it. The only logical conclusion is, this has to be Bhagavan. That's why those lakshanas that we attribute to that Supreme are so important in our religion. So now that we've established the existence of this Bhagavan, one more analysis we have to do. Next step. If we look at the composition of our personalities, you and I as jivas, we are a bundle of tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is that indolence, lethargy, basic thoughts. The kids say basic nowadays to mean something bad. That is what tamasic is, basic. From there, rajasic, that nature of frenetic activity, of high emotion, of moving forward. All of this is rajas in a nutshell. Then sattva, that nature of joy, cheerfulness, the nature of knowledge, the nature of purity. All of this is sattva. To come to a purified mind that is available to understand this highest knowledge, it must be predominantly sattvic. For any sadhaka, before they get to the point we talked about yesterday, where they see the mind, see this world as illusory, the step before that is to make this inner instrument and personality as sattvic as possible. That's why the various sadhanas like puja, japa, we went into those yesterday for that reason. Now, when it comes to the sattva, that Bhagavan is an embodiment of the sattva. My inner instrument, we see in Tattva Bodha, is made of this sattva amsha as well, but there's one key difference. The sattva I have is malina sattva. The sattva that Bhagavan is wielding is vishuddha sattva. Malina sattva means that which is highly adulterated with tamas and rajas. You know, in many villages they have milkmen, in India even today. They bring the milk around in the morning, that's the freshest milk you can get. Now these milkmen are really intelligent. If they get a good bounty of milk and they sell all of it in the village, they get a certain amount of money. If you can make that milk into more milk and then sell it, you get more money, and the people never know either. How do you do that? Pour some water in there. It doesn't look any different. I mean, if you pour in too much water, it looks different. But watering it down, diluting a little bit, doesn't really look much different. That's the sattva I possess as a jiva. Malina sattva is, yes, the essence of sattva is there, highly tamped down and diluted by that rajas and tamas. Vishuddha sattva, that sattva Bhagavan possesses and wields, is that purest form of sattva without those traces of tamas and rajas. Because that is the nature of that Bhagavan, and Bhagavan is not subject to Maya like you and I am, Bhagavan wields that Maya Shakti, therefore he is Karma Padatata for that reason. Not that he controls the jivas, but that based on the karmas of the jivas, he gives them the fruits of those actions. Now, despite this, something beautiful I find about Sanatana Dharma is, nowhere in our Shastra does it say that a good quality sadhaka is someone who is God-fearing. In many religions in the world, being God-fearing, because in their scriptures, God is a jealous God. If you pray to anyone else, he will smite you. Therefore, out of fear of him, they pray ardently to that God. That is not our philosophy at all. Because from fear, can there be respect arising out of fear? Yes. Can obedience arise from fear? Certainly. We hope so as parents, right? Can love ever be produced from fear? No chance. In our Sanatana Dharma, that love for that Bhagavan is what is to be cultivated. And forget pure love, even some superficial love never arises from fear. That is not a part of our religion at all. Now in this shloka, what's something beautiful we see? To see that Bhagavan with that Vishuddha Sattva, wielder of Maya, as nothing but this truth, that self. The last part is very beautiful to see. Swayam tadanni bhavanam tadiksha. The vision of that Bhagavan is to become food for that Bhagavan. Does this mean like how Kumbhakarna used to eat people? Is that, Bhagavan, please eat me? Is that what I hope for? Is that moksha? In Bhagavad Gita, there's a portion, Vishvarupa Darshana, 11th chapter. Arjuna sees the scariest thing. He sees this divine Vishvarupa form of that Bhagavan, and he literally says, it's as if the Kauravas are being picked up by you. I can see them, remnants of their bodies in your teeth, as if you're eating them. So is that what we aspire for here? This business of being eaten by Bhagavan really means the following. That there are two words to understand. Bhogya and Bhokta. Bhokta is the one who consumes. Bhogya is what is consumed. Now, when I am a Bhokta, consuming things from around my surroundings, everything I consume is to make this ego loaded. From the food I eat, to the compliments I consume, to making myself so that I get these compliments and attention, my whole focus is there as a jiva. And I become that bhokta. When it comes to a puja, for instance, we offer that naivedya. Now, naivedya, often people say, we offer prasad. We don't offer prasad. We take prasad only. What we get from that Bhagavan is prasad. What we offer those naivedya, and it's not that we're imagining that Bhagavan is eating it. We actually believe Bhagavan is partaking in that nourishment. Then what we get back from that is that prasada for us. And we consume it. So any karma phalas we get is that prasada. Not just the naivedya we offer, but anything we offer that Bhagavan we get in return is that prasada. What is the greatest offering I can give that Bhagavan? Laddu I can give, even Motichur Laddu I can give, that's the greatest kind. But even greater than that, what is the greatest thing I can offer this Bhagavan? My own ego. When there's Sashtanga Namaskara, Sa Ashta Anga Namaskara, 8 limbs. 7 of those limbs are physical. The Jammu, the knees, the elbows, the chest, all of those. What is that one entity that's left for Sashtanga Namaskara? Ahankara, that ego. Let me even offer that. So when I offer my ahankara to Bhagavan, he becomes that bhokta that consumes that, eliminating it, and then who is the bhogya at that point? I am. That's what is meant by I become that food for that Bhagavan. That my ego is completely shredded, eliminated at that moment. Now that we've seen how to see this Bhagavan as my own self, Next comes a very interesting topic. This technique of meditation. What is this meditation that seems to be so elusive? The 24th shloka. Dhiye prakasham paramo vidirya. Dhiye prakasham paramo vidirya. Swayam dhiyontah pravibhati guptaha. Swayam dhiyontah pravibhati guptaha. Dhiyam paravartya dhiyontaretra. Dhiyam paravartya dhiyontaretra. Samyojananeshvara drishtiranya. Samyojananeshvara drishtiranya. Whenever I tell people about the mission, I meet many people, and when they're not familiar with Chinmaya mission, I say we have a host of activities to help the family in their spiritual growth. For children, we have Balavihar classes. For the youth, we have the Chinmaya Yuva Kendra wing. For adults, we have baby groups for the ladies, study groups for ladies and gentlemen, chanting, puja vidhi. We have various seva groups, all of this we have. Value-based education for everyone. And then invariably, the person won't be impressed with any of that. I'll say, okay. Then their question is, do you teach meditation? Is their first question. That always comes up. Now, I don't know how to answer that question. There's a long explanation I want to give them, but usually it's in passing. But since I have you all hostage right now, you can't run anywhere, I'll give you the explanation. Meditation in the colloquial sense means what? Someone sits there, back straight, eyes closed, breathing in a rhythmic fashion. That is meditation. In our Vedanta Sampradaya, meditation, which is translated as loosely nididhyasana, is completely different. That is at best mindfulness and breathing, watching the breath and watching the mind. That's not meditation, that's simply clearing the clutter in the mind. Next step on top of that, people say, okay, I meditate on the name of the Lord. Mantra japa is japa. Repetition of Bhagavan's name is to purify this mind, but it's not dwelling on anything, it's dwelling on that Bhagavan's name. Dhyana, we can come to. Now in dhyana, it can be saguna, where Bhagavan with attributes, whom I meditate upon, with my focus on that form, unbreaking thought on it. Or it can be nirguna, where without any other thought arising, I simply focus on one stream of thought, on the lakshanas of the Supreme, owning up this knowledge that that is my true identity. Nirguna dhyana. So here, when it comes to this concept of meditation, it's not that some new knowledge hits me at this point. There's no mysticism here. It's not that I close my eyes and sit there, and before long, lights and sounds and stuff I see. That's hallucination. Go to a doctor for that. That's not what's promised here by Vedanta. What's promised here is that technique is, let me focus simply on what this knowledge is, these lakshanas given of what my true identity is. This stops the viparita bhavanas. Viparita bhavana are those lingering tendencies I have, built lifetime upon lifetime, convincing me that this body here is real and that this world around me is real as well. To break that notion, nididhyasana is what finishes those last vestiges of those misconceptions. Because we saw a few days ago in Shravanam, doubtless knowledge is what's ascertained. Mananam, I make it make sense for myself, verbalizing it through logic. Nididhyasana, knowledge has already occurred, but this is that point now where I completely own up this knowledge, that last vestige of misconception, that's even being cut away. Now, in this whole process and technique of meditation, what Bhagavan here says is, he brings in a concept we saw a couple days ago, that there is that pure consciousness, and then there is that reflected consciousness. So with both being there, if I'm looking outwards to tap in and to understand that consciousness and to see myself as that, that's a fruitless effort. That consciousness, reflected even, is only located within. Turning the intellect within, svayam dhiyontaha, is the recommendation given here. Which means what? We talk so much, tattva bodha, atma bodha, viveka chudamani, vakyavritti, aparokshanubhuti. So many texts introduce this concept of sadhana chatushtaya. That what are those qualifications the seeker needs in order to traverse this path? One of them is vairagya, dispassion. Not being tempted by the objects of the world, understanding that that true growth comes from within, not by accumulating more of these objects around, not by accumulating alliances with others, not by accumulating power and position. Understanding that, I can take my first foray as a sadhaka. Now, Bhagavan clearly says here, samyojanan na ishvara drishtihi anya. That unless I have that mindset where the focus in dhyana is on that Bhagavan, there is no growth. Because many sadhakas want to leapfrog. The impatience is there. That, hey, if the truth is that this Bhagavan is formless, that nirguna nirakara, then why do I want to pray to that Bhagavan with form then? Why can't I just go straight there? Let's try it then. Tomorrow morning, after your shower, sit down, close your eyes, think of that which has no form. Think of that which has no attribute. It's impossible. The mind only gets frustrated when it's subject to that kind of dhyana. That single-pointed focus on Bhagavan with attributes, that attracts my attention. And through that process, I understand more about this Ishvara. And through that process, I divinize this mind. Searching for what this I is, this is a preliminary step to take. Because if I ask myself, do I truly believe in the power of that Bhagavan? No one else can answer it for me of what I truly believe. Do I truly believe it? Do I truly believe that this ardent devotion to Bhagavan will have some benefit for me? Or do I see it as, in the religion, it's socially acceptable to say I believe in Bhagavan, therefore I do? Or is that a true conviction that I have? Because the way we find it is, there's a fridge magnet I saw at someone's house, ASAP. Always say a prayer. That in times of good or bad, have that focus on that Bhagavan, no matter what. Now, the funny thing is, when it comes to an actual calamity, actual crisis I'm in, is my first thought that let me rely on that Bhagavan, or is it let me do something myself to fix the situation? And when someone at that point says, now is a good time for prayer, they say, no, that's for other things. This is a real thing happening, therefore I must do something. So for calamities that are unreal, Bhagavan is necessary then, in stories and things like that. When I'm actually going through something, though, Bhagavan is not what comes to mind. Because Bhagavan even says clearly in Bhagavad Gita, there are different types of devotees who approach me. There are those who are like the astronauts in space. Whenever they call Earth, Houston, we have a problem. That's the first thing they say. Never checking in to say hi or how are you. It's always Houston, we have a problem. Those are some people that are devotees of Bhagavan. When things are bad, only then do they remember Bhagavan. There are others that want something. That, okay, you are the most powerful. I truly believe that. Therefore, I want things from you. That's the relationship with Bhagavan. But even further, there are those who seek knowledge. With this Viveka Vairagya, they seek knowledge, they pray to Bhagavan. The texture with they approach the divine is completely different. And then finally, Bhagavan says, the ones who are the most beloved by me are those wise ones who see me as the self. That's ultimately what I have to get to. So after explaining this technique of meditation, in the next shloka, 25th shloka, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi goes to tell us, what is the way I use this intellect to go further and search for what this I is? Let's see the 25th shloka. Navakti deho hamiti prasuptau. Navakti deho hamiti prasuptau. Nakopi na bhuvamiti pravakti. Nakopi na bhuvamiti pravakti. Yatrodite sarvamudeti tasya. Yatrodite sarvamudeti tasya. Dhiyahamashodhaya janmadesham. Dhiyahamashodhaya janmadesham. Janmadesham, birthplace. My birthplace is Texas. Your birthplace is India. That's the basic way we see it. But here we're not looking for the birthplace of this physical I. It is, where does this concept of ahankara, where I think I am this assemblage, that I notion, where does that even come from? Because Vedanta's practice is not to just palliatively weed out problems that arise when they arise. It's to go in part and parcel, the very root of what's causing the issue, eradicating that completely. Self-help books are what help with the outside world like that. If you have a problem with relationships, this is what you do. Problem with finances, this is what you do. Problems with confidence, this is what you do. Vedanta does not concern itself with this kind of peripheral advice. What is the root cause of every one of my problems is this false I notion. Let me go in and weed that out completely. It's the very first thing to do. Now, when it comes to finding myself in any situation that's difficult, I need to know what my roadmap is. What are these steps that I'm going to take? Like there's this man who was a CPA, who was running his small company, but he found it hard to really going through the accounts, dealing with the clients, all the administrative work, tax season, all of this he found it difficult to keep up with. He was getting older, a lot more clients, all of this. So he decided to hire a college graduate to help him out with this. So he interviewed one young man. The guy seemed to be very dedicated, knowledgeable, smart, willing to learn, all of this. So he said, what's my job description? He said, your job is pretty much fixing problems for me. Where I know you're a smart accountant, but it's not going to be purely accounting stuff. There are problems that arise in our small business here. As they arise, you fix those problems that come up. I said, okay. And he said, your salary is going to be $200,000. Kid said, wow, straight out of college, it's a huge salary. But I have one question. If you're going to pay me $200,000, how do you keep the rest of your business afloat? And the guy said, that's your first problem to solve. So from the get-go, not caused by anything seemingly that I've done, I find myself in this soup where I have to get out of it. That's the issue I face as this jiva as well. Here I am, born with this I notion. It's conditioned and compounded so much. And here I am having to get out of it now. What's the one word each of us loves the most? Our own name, right? My name, hearing it is what I love the most. When people say it, people cheer it, people say it lovingly. My name I love the most. So from a young age, I'm conditioned that when people show me that love, when I'm praised, when I'm pampered, that is the best feeling in the world. I should seek more of that again and again. Now here it's said that these layers that I have pride in, these 5 sheets that we mentioned at length a couple days ago, that this is not what I should be focused on. That my existence, my focus, is something much, much deeper, something that is permanent. Now, what are the statements made here? That he says here, Navakti deho ahamiti prasupta. That the body does not say I am. The body is Jadavastu. If there is a body where that spark of life is completely seeped out of it, there is nothing that body can do at that point. So I say this body is me, the body will never say it's me though. That's the irony here. It's like when you call someone your best friend, and someone asks them who is your best friend, and they don't say your name, how do you feel at that moment? Same relationship with this body. I say it's me, the body has no such claim to be the I. It's journalistic. Similarly, in that deep sleep state, this is a really interesting one to see, this framework we haven't gone into yet. There are the 3 states of existence. Only 3. Waking, dream, and deep sleep. There's no other state of existence besides these 3. In the waking state, I have control over my sense organs, access to them. Plus, I have a functioning intellect, right? Most of the time, yes. In waking, a functioning intellect. Dream state is there. Do I have access to my sense organs in the dream state? Yeah. Does the intellect function in the dream state? It does, but at half capacity then. Because things that happen in a dream do not make sense. The memory of what happens in a dream does not linger long after waking. And decision-making in a dream can be there, but it's very convoluted. Whatever is seen in that waking state and perceived, whatever remains lingering in the mind as an anxiety, as a fixation, that is what we see, albeit in a warped way, in a dream. There was a time when I was working in finance, before becoming a Brahmachari. It was Excel spreadsheets from 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night for like 3 weeks in a row. Crunch time at the company. Even in my dreams, I would see Excel spreadsheets then. That's all I'm seeing in the waking state. What else would be there in the dream? So the dream, it's a warped view, but the intellect is still functioning. Now that dreamless, deep sleep state, do I have access to my sense organs? Is the intellect functioning there? There is no remembrance either of what happened. All I know is, when I awake, I either know I did not sleep well or I slept well. I feel well rested or I don't feel well rested. The intellect will never say, though, that I did not exist at that time. That's never a statement that's made. Now, imagine, because there's one level, we went through this, where Vijnanamaya Kosha is what I believe to be my identity. That is that permanent entity. When the intellect also does not function in deep sleep, by that logic, I should disappear at that point, shouldn't I? I should perish because the intellect is not functioning. Yet, not only do I come back after deep sleep, I come back through that same intellect, don't I? If I woke up as Venkatesh and he woke up as me the next day, this would be every day I wake up as someone else. That would be cool for a little bit until that gets very cumbersome. But thank goodness I wake up as me again. Me and I must be something beyond this intellect as well. But that does not compute with me because I cannot cognize anything that I cannot think of. Now, why is that important to see? continuing our topic of Bhagavan, it is said that Ishvara abides in this intellect and controls the functions of the other sheets that I have. That spark of consciousness is that Ishvara abiding in this intellect. Now, from that standpoint, we come to the Lakshana that Ishvara is Antaryami, the inner controller. Inner controller not meaning he's a puppet master and I have no control over my actions. Inner controller meaning he provides that spark of consciousness so that I have control over my actions. This goes back to yesterday's discussion we had on destiny versus free will. It's not that I'm out of free will completely, Bhagavan controls everything. That's not what's said. It is that that inner controllership is what gives me that spark of life. Now, if we were to say that just because Bhagavan is that inner controller, that is the permanent reality, that's also false. Because as I search with this intellect, going deeper and deeper into what is the source of it, I find one troubling thing that comes up for me, which is this concept of, why does there only have to be one pure consciousness? Why is it not that each of our intellects has a consciousness backing it up? Because each of us are separated like this. We have different thoughts. Forget reading your thoughts, we don't even have the same thoughts. Some of you are thinking, oh, this is interesting. Some of you are saying, my body is hurting sitting on the ground. Some of you are thinking, this chair is cold. Some of you are thinking, when will this end? I'm hungry. Different thoughts are going on right now. I read some of them, but different thoughts are going on right now. We don't all share one intellect. Then how can we say we share, there's only one pure consciousness that we all arise from them? Now think about it this way. If we each had a separate consciousness that sustained us, that means there's not one reality, there's multiple realities. Every consciousness then needs one more consciousness backing it up. Infinite regress is where we go then. Logically does not make sense. What does make sense, however, is that pure consciousness lending that spark of consciousness to each intellect enlivens it, and when that body drops, the intellect also ceases to exist, merges back into that original consciousness. That is the only explanation that's there that does not break any siddhantas. Now, after this study into myself is done, the next question I ask is, how does this ego, this individuality, even arise then? What makes this idea of individuality even come up? Because if you remember from the second day, we had a discussion on who is the enjoyer, who is that bhokta. We said it can't be pure consciousness solely because that would mean it was modified. It can't be this reflected consciousness only because it's jada, how can it experience anything independently? Then it must be experiencing only happens with that Gurudev calls unholy matrimony between this pure consciousness and reflected consciousness. Now, looking in that same vein, we try to understand the 26th shloka. What is the birth of this elusive ego? Deho na janati sato na janma. Deho na janati sato na janma. Deha pramaణonya udeti madhye. Deha pramaణonya udeti madhye. Aham kriti granthi vibandha sukshma. Aham kriti granthi vibandha sukshma. Sharira cheto bhava jivanama. Sharira cheto bhava jivanama. Dehaha na janati. The body does not know. Sataha na janma, of what that true existence is. I can only figure that out through the intellect. Now this Ishvara dwells in the intellect But strangely, I cannot cognize that Ishvara who's in my own intellect. Because, let's give an example here. The eye sees the objects of the world. My mind sees that eye and makes some sense of what that object is. Some memory comes in. That's the mind role. The intellect understands what the mind sees, makes some decision out of it. That spark of consciousness enables that intellect to even see that mind. Now, in all of this, can one entity see itself? Of course I do. I look in the mirror, I see my eyes. It's not what I meant. Can one entity cognize itself? Meaning, can the eye see what the eye sees? Its own eye? The mind can't see itself. Intellect cannot see itself either. Like that, even though Ishvara enlivens that intellect, I can't cognize or perceive that Ishvara. But then there's still a way for me to know how this ego arises. Imagine you're on a beach and you're walking. The funniest thing to see on the beach is those old people wearing their shorts and shoes and socks, and they have their those metal detectors looking for gold on the beach. They'll walk a little bit and so they'll go in, they'll start digging. And what they bring out is some kid's like Hot Wheels car or something they left on the beach, packed in there. And then they get disappointed that this isn't gold. But still, a lot of people look for gold and stuff on the beach. Now imagine you're walking on the beach without your detector, metal detector, okay? You're not weird like that. But you're walking on the beach and you see something shining. You turn your head this way, that way, see something shining. It looks like silver. Now you're surprised, oh, there's something silver here. Could it be a silver dollar? Could it be someone's necklace? What could it be? Then you get closer, only to find it's a seashell, but with the reflection of the sun, the reflection of the water, all of this coming together, from a distance, it looked like silver. Now, when you're at that distance, rushing towards it, the statement that I made to myself was, this is silver. Very important to remember that line. This is silver. Going up to it, though, I find, okay, this was an error in my perception. It's only a shadow. Now, this is silver. Silver, did it exist at all? At any point? Was it that there was silver, then I went up and the silver disappeared? Is that the situation, or was there never any silver there? Never any silver, never existent. Okay, silver is imaginary then. This, the word this, meaning pointing at that, was that existent? There was a this. It wasn't silver, but there was a this. This is, was that existing? Is existence. Isness is that existence. So existence definitely was there. The thisness definitely was there. This silver was completely imaginary then. In the same way, when I point to this body assemblage, and I say, this is I, is there a this when I'm pointing to it? There is a this. Substratum is there. Is there an is here? Existence definitely is there. What is the one imaginary thing I'm putting on there? That I. Now the confusing thing here for myself is, in the case of this is silver, that silver at least is interchangeable for the shell. I see what that substratum is. For me, I is interchangeable with what? Yet another I is what it is. That's what makes it tough for me. But through this inquiry, what do I find? That just as thisness and isness is recognized, it's that unholy matrimony of that pure consciousness plus reflective consciousness that causes this creation, separating it out and seeing myself only as this pure consciousness. This is I completely makes sense from that standpoint. Now, I tried to explain this simply without pulling into any complications, but the Sanskritam word for what this whole process is adhyasa, superimposition. Superimposition meaning adhyasa, that where something is not I throw reality onto it. Where this has no reality to it, but I'm throwing reality onto this assemblage, saying that this is I. That is the problem that I'm going through. Now, Hariji, what does this have to do with figuring out what this ego is? Yes, let's go to that part now. The birth of this ego, then, only arises because of this adhyasa. It's very good news for us. Because what if the bad news was, yeah, this is the problem, you're never going to get over it as long as you're in this body. Because that same eye that saw this as silver, even knowing that it's a shell and not silver, when I walk a few more 100 yards and I see another shell, can it still appear like silver to me? It can. That's a function of the eye, it can still appear that way. Meaning, even after I know this truth clearly of what my true identity is, can I still function as this I, little I that's functioning and going around? I have to. All the while understanding this is not really what my identity is. Now, let's take this one step further then. Where other words were given here. Ahankara, Granthi, Vibandha, Sukshma Sharira, all of these different words are defined here. Granthi is the important one for us to see. That Granthi is a knot of the heart or knot of the mind. This is what's given in Shastra. What are those knots? This knot tightly wound up that does not let me see the truth of my own true nature. These are pratibandhas, obstacles that are stuck in my mind. They can be intellectual in nature. That how can I be that supreme self if I have this body, I'm functioning through it all the time? How can I be that changeless entity when it seems like all I'm going through is changes? You compare your past photos every 10 years, the hair keeps going away more and more. If you're like me, by the time you're 30, this much has happened. By the time I'm 50, will I have anything left? Who knows? Change is always there. How can you say I'm changeless? Shastra says I'm akarma, achala. I have no movement, I have no action, yet that's all I seem to have. How can that be the case? These mental blocks that keep me from accepting what the truth is, these knots in my heart have to be resolved for myself. If not, there is no spiritual progress, no growth. Now, what's the connection between these knots and the birth of that ego then? Through every janma that I've lived, I've made new knots and strengthened them even more. You know when kids learn how to tie shoes early on? There's like different songs you can use and so many things, right? First you make one, one under the other and you do it tight, then one loop, the other loop, loop-de-loop, under the loops, then again, then double knot one more time. But as kids, when we learn to tie our shoes, I know kids that just one knot after the other, where there's no loops or anything. And for the mom or dad to untie all of those is a pain in the neck. Like that, I've done that lifetime after lifetime. Made more knots in my personality again and again and again. These obstacles keep me from realizing this truth. It makes it impossible nearly. So now after understanding that the rise of the ego is facilitated by these knots and by that adhyasa, superimposition of throwing reality onto something that is not real, even though the thisness and isness is properly placed, what is that entity is what I'm not seeing properly. Now we come to the next shloka, the next question of, what is this ego's existence supported by? What supports this very ego? Shloka 27 we see. Rupodbhavo rupatati pratishtaha. Rupodbhavo rupatati pratishtaha. Rupashano dhuta grihita rupaha. Rupashano dhuta grihita rupaha. Swayam virupasva vicharakale. Swayam पिशाच एषः धावत्यहङ्कार पिशाच एवः. This ahankara is referred to as ahankara pichachaha, a ghost. A ghost is something that elicits a lot of fear in everyone. Because that which is alive or that which is fully dead causes no fear. That in-between kind of thing is very fearful. Now in Sanatana Dharma, do we have ghosts in our tradition? Do we believe in ghosts? We definitely do. Those pranis that after they expire from this physical body, they don't find that shanti in the other world, bhuta preta, that's how they go through. That's why during Pitru Paksha time, to give those pranis that shanti, we offer the pinda at that time, so that they may not be between worlds like that. So we definitely believe in ghosts. Not to scare you. There are no ghosts in Peoria, okay? Only other parts of the world. In Peoria, no ghosts at all. Kamsavani protects you from that. No ghosts. So what do we see here then? How is this ego still supported? What do we mean by support? That you look at our own life, there is a birth, there are changes that are undergone, achievements are there, activities are there, finally death is the inevitable. When we were in Spanish class growing up, we had to do one activity where you pick a famous person from the Hispanic world, and in Spanish, you give a presentation on him for 5 minutes. And our teacher was awfully strict. In that, if your presentation is less than 4 minutes 50 seconds, you lose points. If it's more than 5 minutes 10 seconds, you lose points. So you try to get it 5 minutes on the dot with 10 seconds here or there. So, the thing about English, like when I speak also, I've been told I speak really fast. I've tried to slow it down. When I'm excited about something, it's hard. And Saddarśana excites me a lot, so sorry about that. But when it comes to a foreign language like Spanish, you write out a lot. You will speak slowly because the words are not, they're literally foreign to you. It's hard to say. You'll speak slower. So what most of us found was we write things out thinking it'll be 5 minutes. The speed in which we speak is slower, we can't get through all the material. So the person's life we're going through, he did this, he did that, then he went here, then that. Then we look at the clock, 5 minutes, 5 seconds. This is 5 more seconds, you lose points. So wherever we are in the story, we'd say, se murió, meaning, he died. So I was giving a presentation on a tennis player who was Hispanic. I said, then he won this Grand Slam. Then he was beginning the second phase of his career. I saw the clock, say what then he died. That's how you stop yourself from losing points. So like this jiva, no matter how many achievements are there, no matter how much is left to be done in its mind, whatever it is, conclusion is, say murió, again. That's it. There is nothing beyond that we can see. That jiva has an ending there. In this janma, this body must drop. Now, given that all of this is true, what our question is here, the deeper question of what it's supported by, is this worldly existence that we live so much, does that aid and abet this idea that I'm this individuality right here? Because again, when it came to time and to space, what was that entity that even made time and space exist? I. When it came to other beings, the grammatical analysis we saw, the reason why there is you, or they, or them, or that, or this, is because of I. This idea of direction, that there's east, west, north, south, higher, lower, different lokas, all of that arises because this concept of I. Every other entity I consider as real is only because of this I. The irony is, this is the only real thing. So there has to be some reason why this false I, this ahankara, is being pumped up and bloated up again and again. That reason is because I have that connection with that worldly existence. The groups of forms, the world of that, as I'm the bhokta of that, the eater of all these forms, that's what bloats this ego more and more. Which is why this enquiry is not enough. It cannot be that I still engage in the world, enjoy all the things in the world, and on the side I read this knowledge and I feel satiated by it. That's simply bhuktaye na tu muktaye. I'm enjoying myself, but is there mukti as the goal? Not really there. I have to consciously make sure that I'm not going out trying to enjoy this world even more. Now, that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. You chose this path where you don't have that family kind of a life, you don't have these material objects you're going after, all of these things. We live real lives though. We're real people with real problems in real lives. We can't not go after things. Imagine York is the only one that doesn't have an iPhone in his whole class. You say, Veda, everyone else may have it, but we are Vedantins, we don't believe in these kind of things. That's not what I'm saying, not in that direction. Enjoyment of life has to be there. And just because we are on a certain path, we can't deprive our loved ones of those things. But what can be there is this mindset of, am I living within my means of only what I need? And furthermore, how attached am I to these objects? That vairagya comes at different levels. There's one, I think, Shringeri Pithadipati, who went to someone's house for a picture. He was eating. And one statement he made was, the dal is good, is what he said. The dal is good. He let that slip. And then he was stunned. He said, my mind is supposed to be devoid of these likes and dislikes. Forget having that thought in my mind, I even verbally expressed it saying the dal is good. So what penance did he undertake? It's grotesque, but it's necessary to know. For the next 3 days, he only consumed cow dung for the next 3 days. That was the level of vairagya he was expecting himself to maintain. And even that statement and the thought that percolated that statement, that shouldn't happen. And it wasn't he was insulting the food either. He was saying the dal is good and he did this to himself. I mean, that's the level of vairagya to have. Now, is that what's expected from you and I? Not as sadhakas and seekers on this path. But for someone to have that tivra vairagya without any kind of like or dislike, that's the extent that they go with it. Were certain sects in Sanatana Dharma, the Aghoris I'm sure you've heard of, where they're often misunderstood. They're seen as these savage tribal people, where they even eat the flesh of humans, all of this. They, conduct their businesses in smashanas and places like that. They're very well read. At their level, a dead human carcass and a chocolate cake, for instance, has the same amount of reality to them. That's the depth of their vairagya. That they see all of this as Shiva Prasada. There is no gradation of the objects in the world. They are all the same. They are all finite, unreal. There's only one reality. To keep themselves in that mindset, they go to that extent. Now, that's not required of us either, but just want to impress upon you, that's the idea. That there's no such thing as a good vasana or bad vasana. There are vasanas that are producing conducive results for me, vasanas that produce negative results for me. But good or bad avasana is avasana, which has to be cut. An impression that leads to desire, to action, to dharma, to punya papa, to strengthening of likes and dislikes, back to likes and dislikes in the beginning, all of that has to be cut. There's no good or bad right there. So in this entire journey, then, the next question we find, 28th shloka, is, what is this path to victory then? Vijaya, victory. Bhavehamas sarvamidam vibhati, Bhavehamas sarvamidam vibhati, Layehamo naiva vibhati kinchit, Layehamo naiva vibhati kinchit, Tasmadaham rupamidam samastam, Tasmadaham rupamidam samastam, sarvajayaya margaha tanmarganam sarvajayaya margaha. Tatmarganam, the search for jayaya, that victory. Where does that search culminate? There's a beautiful example given in our Shastra of how someone imitates greatness. Now, when it comes to a doctor having a son who's a great doctor, that's not rare to see. Right? Those things pass out. A lawyer who's a great lawyer, also having a son who's a lawyer, not hard to see. Same for an accountant or engineer. An actor having a talented son who's an actor, rare. Same for a singer, right? Nepotism pushes them to a certain extent, but the real talent isn't really there. These are kalas that are just, they're God-gifted, not really to be cultivated. That's why, after decades, no matter how hard Abhishek Bachchan tries, you are not your daddy, buddy. That's what he has to be told. But when it comes to a king or a CEO who's great, the example given in Shastra then is the heir imitates life of the father in order to fit himself to be fit to take on that position. From the very minor ways of how they speak to others to adopting a vision also. Now, this imitation of greatness is humorous at times. For example, you go to any Hindustani concert, there's a tabla player. Almost every tabla player I've seen, and I really mean this, every tabla player almost has this long, curly hair and it bounces when they play and everything. Who was that inspired by? Ustad Zakir Hussain. Now, does having that long hair make them a better tabla player? Probably not, I don't know, could be true, but they're imitating someone that's great. And it's not meant for everyone. When someone like Zakir Hussain, the majestic way when he's playing, the hair bounces like this and everything, that's a special kind of sight to behold, the virtuosity he shows. And some Buddha uncle who's now 60 having the same Zakir Hussain hair, stringy hair, bald hair, everything, doesn't look the same way, but they still try to do it. My point being that imitation, it does not mean that that's what's being cultivated. However, when it comes to this path, that bhakti component that's there for that true victory, Bhagavan not only serves as that entity that I worship, but also that entity that I emulate. We're given all these various lakshanas of Bhagavan for that purpose then. That can I emulate that action? Not in the way of I decide what other people's karma-phalas are, not that way, but those noble things that Bhagavan Bhagavati Devi does in their whole chronicles, the Puranas, can I emulate that? Those good qualities that are seen. Because our Puranas and Itihasas are nothing but the audio-visual representation of what's in the Upanishads. That knowledge given by the Vedas, so succinctly, so bare bones at some places, that is given life in these Puranas and Itihasas. Now the question we have here for ourselves is, when it comes to this path to victory, what else is needed? The goal must be known completely well. Imagine there are two travelers. They're walking somewhere, stopping in Place Illinois, sleeping in barns or under temples, walking. They know that the destination is far away. They don't know exactly where it is though. No Google Maps with them either. So they're going. Now one of them knows where the destination is exactly. The other one does not know. Okay? So they're going. As they reach the destination, literally maybe about 30 more minutes of walking before they get there, one of them has had enough. He finally says, I quit. I'm not doing this. I can't. And he turns back to go home. How awful would that be? 5 days of walking, 30 minutes left, and he turns back and goes home. The other man, no matter how fatigued he is, he'd be equally tired. Knowing that that destination is there, coming this far, he becomes more inspired. The fatigue is completely dismissed. He makes his way over there. Knowing what that goal is has that difference. And there's programs are out there, right? Going from couch to 5K, like knowing how to run these races and things, where people that never thought they could do it, give them the confidence to go do it. But when you know the finish line is there and you see it, even if your sides are falling apart and your spleen is about to come out and everything, seeing that finish line makes you run a little bit faster then. You may even crawl, but at least you go. In our process as a sadhaka, do I see the finish line anywhere? Bhagavan says, do your dharma the right way, worship me ardently, learn this knowledge. There is no finish line in sight. What am I even looking for then? There have to be some markers on the way that tell me, okay, if you're at this point, you're doing good. Something has to be there. It's like I'm thrown into a game without knowing the rules, and I'm being punished along the way for making mistakes here. How can that work? So what are these markers along the way then? If I'm making true spiritual progress, one marker is my mind more balanced than it was before? If I have certain triggers, and they've been making me angry for the past 30 years, and I have the same amount of anger as I did back then, balance of mind is not there, where's the progress? So do I have a balanced mind? That's one of them. Other is my interest in this spiritual matters, is it growing or is it waning? Has it stayed the same? Meaning, do I have to drag myself to study this knowledge? Or is there more of an innate interest that this is what I want to learn? We have graduation in Chennai Mission Dallas Fort Worth at the end of the year. And the practice is the graduates say something. Each of them speaks for a finite time. It's all the same thing, what everyone says. When I was 5, I had to go to Balvihar. I didn't want to come. My parents made me come. Then I got to high school. I really didn't want to come in high school. They still made me come. But now today, as I stand before you, I realize they did the right thing. I understand how beneficial it was. This was so great. La la la. Have you guys said something like that? Yeah? Yeah? Come on. Hey. Yes? Yes. We all said, I said the same thing when I graduated. Right? Where this journey seems to be something I didn't want to do, that I take it seriously, this and that. Is that really true, though? Saying it on stage is one thing. I can say it to be polite up there. But is it really that this interest grows? When does it happen? Because one question that arises often for me is, when I speak to people who are Hindu, when did you choose to be a Hindu? We're all brought up as Hindus, most of us. What is that moment that I said, yes, this tradition, this philosophy, this way of worship, this is what's going to orient my life, this is what I truly believe? When did that conviction come? And if it hasn't come, what do I do to have that happen? Because unless that conviction firmly comes that I am a Hindu, that is that first identity needed for that path to victory. Now people say, Haniji, any label that we give ourselves is limiting. Giving myself that Hindu label is also boxing myself in as limiting also, isn't it? For this, Gurudev gives a beautiful example. My favorite example he gives. You know, once every 4 years we watch the Olympics. It seems like the sports done in the Olympics, sometimes we don't see them anywhere else but the Olympics. Those people don't do anything for 4 years but plan for this. One of my favorite things to watch is the pole vault. It's awesome. How they run up, dig the pole into the ground right there, there'll be a bar they have to cross, and they will leap over it as high as they can go. Now, one nuance there is, as they rise in height, at a certain point, they have to let go of the pole and go over. If they're still holding on to that pole, they can't cross over that bar. They have to let go of it. Now, what is the point to let go of that pole then? At your highest point. Only then can you catapult yourself over. Even that pole has to be let go. Now, what if I say I have to let go of the pole anyway? Why even have the pole? Let me just run and jump then. Does that work? The pole is integral to the activity. Like that with this Hindu identity, that of a sadhaka, that of a Hindu, that identity is like that pole that takes me to the highest. At that point where even that identity is limiting, I let go of it. Until that point, this is the highest identity to hold on to. Or else when I introduce myself to others, or to myself even, my biggest identities are with my gender, with my regional language in India, with my political party, all of these things, that shapes my identity. These are all finite labels that hold me back from seeing oneness, that hold me back from any progress spiritually. The moment my identity is something far more expansive, that facilitates, not just facilitates, encourages my spiritual growth, that Hindu identity is the only one that does that for me. It encapsulates the bhakti that I have for that Bhagavan, includes that jnana through logical reasoning, includes how I do all my actions, what I prioritize. All of that falls under that Hindu identity label. Let that be what I use to vault to the next stage. That is the secret to the path of true victory. And then we come to the next point here, that what is that true state of being? Very interesting that comes up. Again, a reiteration of what's been said, but we're looping back into this. What is the true state of being? 29th shloka. Satyasthitiर्nahamudeti yatra Satyasthitiर्nahamudeti yatra Tacchodayasthanagaveshanena Tacchodayasthanagaveshanena Vinananashyet yaditannanashyet Vinananashyet yaditannanashyet Swatmaikya rupa kathamastu nishtha Swatmaikya rupa kathamastu nishtha. The question arises that once this knowledge is ascertained, does ignorance ever come back? Does it ever come back again? That's a scary thought, isn't it? Because how many times have we learned something only to forget it right away? In school days, you cram for an exam, cram, and then you just kind of regurgitate it onto the exam right there. That doesn't stay as knowledge, does it? Whatever you spit up in that exam stays for that exam, that's it, never comes back again. Hopefully for some professions it does stay. Like, I don't want my tax guy to not know anything again, or my doctor doing the surgery to say, I learned how to open him up, but stitching him back together, I didn't really understand that part, so I don't know what to do. They gotta know fully. That's why what is passing rate in America is what, 70%, even here in Illinois, in school? 70% is passing, right? Well, in India, what is it, 50%? About 50? 35 in some places I heard. 35, really?
But I was an engineer.
You were in engineering, so it had to be a lot more. But good God, if my doctor only knows 35% of things, where it's like, yeah, I know your problem may be airborne, it may be, autoimmune. Other things I don't really know about, so let's test for this and, give you medicine, but hey, you never know. I wouldn't want that. I want my doctor to know 100% of that. So the same way, when this knowledge comes, is there a chance of it going away again? That ignorance coming back? Valid question. What do we understand, though? A beautiful example given again in Shastra. That imagine there is a cat and a rat. So Tom and Jerry fighting each other, right? Jerry always gets the better of Tom because he's smarter. But in this situation, the cat is much bigger. There's no way this rat can ever win. Now, a live rat has no way of fighting off this cat. What can a dead rat do then? What to talk of a dead rat even? That's the true example that's given. Meaning what? This avidya, this ignorance that has veiled the truth from my intellect, once it has been annihilated, seeing myself as what this true nature really is, that was a false entity to begin with that I thought was real. What chance is there for that ever to come back? Back to our example of seeing the shell on the beach and thinking that it's silver. That after I know that that is silver or shell, even if it looks like it's shimmering and shining, I can never mistake that for silver again. Once I know something is false, it cannot affect me. Sometimes I have nightmares, a tiger chasing me, right? A tiger is chasing me, and I just go through the full motions of that. There's one beautiful example given in Mahabharata, where Bhishma, Pitamaha, or Vidura, one of them tells the story of, imagine a situation where a tiger is chasing you through a forest. So you're running. Then you come to a cliff. The cliff has jagged rocks and everything at the bottom. So your choice is stand there, get eaten by the tiger, or jump and go and then jump onto those rocks and you lose your life that way. From a big height. Because what's the difference between falling out of a second-story window and falling out of a 20th-story window? What's the difference? The difference is in the sound. When you fall from a second-story window, the sound is, ah. When you fall from a 10th-story window, what's the sound? Ah! Like that. That's a choice then. Right? If he jumps, he has to hit the rocks there. So this guy with the tiger is coming, what does he see? He sees a vine hanging right there. And so he grabs onto that vine, and he's going this way and that way. Every time he gets close to that tiger's mouth, tries to bite him, and then he gets out of it again. He's swinging like this. All the while he's swinging, there's a honeycomb right above him. The honey is dripping down. So what does he do? At that moment then, tries to bite some honey. Point of that story being that despite this world giving me so much to get Vairagya from, in that instance where death or death is my only choice, I will still run after those sense objects. That's the stupid human mind that I have. That's what I will always do. So in a dream, say this is a dream now. Tiger is chasing me, all of this. The moment I wake up from that dream, is my heart beating really fast? Yes. I may be sweating, all of this. The moment I realize it was a dream, and I'm sitting there in my pajamas in my bed, I chuckle to myself. Am I scared anymore? If anything, I'm ashamed of myself, but I'm not scared at all. Is my heart still beating fast? Am I still sweating? Will that take time to subside? Yes. But I know what the truth is, though. That ignorance cannot come back. That heart beating fast can still persist for a while. The body pains I got from jumping up suddenly at 3 in the morning, that can subsist a while. But that ignorance coming back of this was all real, that will never happen. Similarly, as I go through after getting this knowledge, will I still have to deal with oscillations of the mind and the prarabdha that comes? Which in this case, that fast heartbeat and everything, yes, I will have to deal with it. But this veil of ignorance of not knowing who I truly am, that will never come up again. That is something I'm guaranteed of. I'm at the point where I don't even see this entity as real anymore. So things affecting this entity will not affect me as that true I that I know myself to be. That's the point of this shloka. Now the next shloka that comes up, I keep saying every day one shloka is my favorite. For today, this one is my favorite. 30th shloka. Beautiful one coming. Kupe yatha gardha jale tathantaha. Kupe yatha gardha jale tathantaha. Nimajya buddhya shitaya nitantam. Nimajya buddhya shitaya nitantam. Pranam cha vacham cha niyamya chinvat. Pranam cha vacham cha niyamya chinvat. Vinde nijaham kriti mula rupam. Vinde nijaham kriti mula rupam. The analogy is of a well with deep water. And imagine having controlled the breathing, controlled the speech, cultivated this razor-sharp intellect, I'm diving inside again and again, getting to the root of what is this ego. Diving again and again. Now, if I have to dive into a well, first thing is I gotta know how to swim. Can't drown in that process. Meaning without using Shastra as an aid, drowning is inevitable. Use the Shastra as an aid with the Guru. Now, the question here is, while living in this samsara, how do I understand what this ego is? It's not like I can make samsara stop, like that movie Click, where he has a universal remote, make the world stop. I can't do that. In and through this world, while everything is going on, I have to find that time and tenacity to inquire into what this ego is coming from. That's the difficulty here. But then one interesting thought comes up. Can I use the talents I have cultivated in samsara to inquire into the self? Or is it some other mystical practice that has nothing to do with the world that I'm in? That's a beautiful thing we see in Shastra. What's said here? Just as those people who were once rich are now poor, when things like gold, clothing, they aspire for all of that, their mind is fixed on it, they never falter, right? Their mind is always on that thing to get rich. Like that, have my mind firmly on what this knowledge is. Finding out what this Saddarśana is, let my mind be that tenacious. Another example, there are people, you meet them at dinner parties, you meet them at the mission even, wherever you meet them. They want to show that they know everything, on everything. You can talk about cars, politics, sports, Vedanta, especially Vedanta, anything at all, they want to show they know more than anyone about it. Which means they're, digesting newspaper after newspaper, watching all these videos to know everything as much as they can. Literature, drama, logic, all of these things. Now, when it comes to understanding this truth about myself, do I have that same tenacity to understand Shastra? Where no stone is left unturned, no doubt do I say that, I don't know this, I don't understand it, but now whatever. No. Do I still dive in so much that I understand every aspect of Shastra, bringing that tenacity to my study? Then there's another example, that for the person who wants to achieve in the next Janma, Swargaloka, that highest of, not heaven, but the highest world, that Loka, they will do any kind of process necessary, any kind of japa necessary to get to that point. Come hell or high water, that goal is fixed, they'll do anything for it. Understanding that the goal has to be achieved. Do I have that same kind of tenacity when it comes to this study? That whatever it takes I'm willing to do, not letting likes or dislikes get in the way. So like that, different things I find in that vyavahara, meaning my daily transactional living, can often get in the way of this spiritual progress, when my mind is not on this spirituality alone. At the same time though, those talents I've cultivated to achieve those things in the outside world, can I use those same talents in the spiritual life? The answer is absolutely. It's not that it's some mystical process completely devoid of it. It does take talent to do. There's a story that one Swamiji tells. He went to someone's house. They had 3 sons. A family of very accomplished people. Professors, doctors, lawyers. They were all very consummate professionally. And they had 3 kids. The first 2 sons were very bright. They went on to have great careers. The 3rd son was still trying to pass college. And he was probably like 30. This wasn't happening for him. Not too bright. So she said that Swamiji, my first 2 sons are doing well, they're settled. This 3rd one, though, is kind of dull. Swamiji, you take him with you to your ashram. Do something with him. Swamiji said, Amma, if he's so bad, why would I want him for my ashram? If anything, give me one of your older 2 sons, I can do something with them. Well, what can I do with this guy? He's dull. You don't want him, you think I want him? I don't want him at all. Meaning, the people that go on the spiritual path, they're not useless. That's first of all, right? Let's admit that first of all. But to even go into this as a grihastha, to have that interest in this knowledge, the power of thinking it takes, that tenacity to stay with it, that's not easy to come by. And whatever vyavaharik practice of this is there, use that, leverage that for this purpose as well. That's why I love this shloka so much, that it does not mystify whatever this path is. It says the talents required for the outer world are the same thing here, but that intention of wanting this knowledge, cultivating that vairagya, that's what separates it from any other endeavor. Because the fruits of this endeavor are completely different from that which what the world promises. Now we come to the 31st shloka. Here the very basic question is, as I embark on this dhyana, this contemplation, what kind of thoughts should I be entertaining here? That's a question that comes up. Maunena majjan manasa svamuda, Maunena majjan manasa svamuda, Jajjaiva satya vicharanam syat, Jajjaiva satyatma vicharanam syat, Eshohametanna mama svarupam, Eshohametanna mama svarupam, iti pramasatya vicharanangam, iti pramasatya vicharanangam. The thoughts of Eshaha, aham, etam, that I am, or na mama svarupam, this is not my nature. Those are the thoughts to be entertained. Now, this is a very process-oriented shloka. Why? As I do this inquiry, there is a process of either affirming what I am or negating what I'm not. When we go to register for a camp, or when the kids these days do dating profiles and stuff like that, right? There are questions that come up. You have to talk about your interests and what you like and what you dislike, and they'll match you with people like that. So I like outdoors, I like nature, but I don't like going to romantic movies and things like that. And they'll match you with whoever, and these things never work really, because you can't go off just by likes and dislikes like that. But anyway, we have what I am, what I am not. Now, this process of assertion and negation is my very starting point here. That's exactly what we've done this entire journey we've come on the past few days, has all been assertion and negation. First we said that I, with this assemblage of this body, mind, and intellect, that I am not. These 5 koshas, the sheaths that we have, from Annamaya all the way till Anandamaya, that I am not. These changing entities in the world that I deal with, they have no connection to me. Everything has been negation. What's left is to assert what remains after all of that. Negation is done. That substratum underlying everything, that is what I am. Because if you remember, the very first definition we provided was, from Bhagavad Gita, that which is real has to exist in all periods of time, past, present, and future. That which is unreal only has a finite existence to it. From that very definition, everything else has been either marked as sat or asat, existent or non-existent, identifying what is non-existent, ruthlessly negating, and negating here means not seeing it as real. That which is remaining, that is my true identity. The Shastra could have been so complicated about it. See how beautifully simple it's presenting it as? How easy it is to follow this whole process? That's the beauty of our Sanatana Dharma Shastra. That despite there being so many complications in these concepts, the sadhaka's path forward from the very first level is giving a clear definition, then going on to say this is the 2-pronged process that you follow. There's no complication besides that. What makes it difficult is my attachment to all those things I have to negate, I want to see as real. That which is actually real, I see as non-existent in the first place, because I cannot cognize or perceive it. Again, that is the granthi, those knots of the heart we were talking about. That is the pratibandha, the obstacle I have to understanding this truth. When that obstacle is gone, and I understand this process of negation and assertion quite clearly, there is nothing that can stop me in this quest. If we were to boil down all our scriptures to one basic statement, it is that. I'll end with this last story then. Pujya Gurudev once gave a lecture in a city, about to get on the train to leave. Probably there for a week. This young man comes up and makes a bunch of excuses, saying, I tried to come on the first day, but then I had work I couldn't. Second day I tried to come, I had a flat tire. Third day, this, fourth day. He made an excuse for every day of the week. Beautiful excuses. Then he asked Gurudev a question. Everything you spoke on this past week, can you summarize it for me real quick? As the train's about to start moving, he asked Gurudev that question. Anyone else would have said, get lost. What is this? You don't come a single day and then want me to summarize all of that to this one moment? How can that be? But Gurudev is Gurudev. What did he say? You want a summary? Okay. Detach, attach. That was his thing. That's it. So negation, assertion, we can go into technical terms. That final teaching for a beginner sadhaka is detach from this world of objects completely, have no connections to them, attach that divine, that highest. From that first process we saw today of seeing Bhagavan as that entity with Vishuddha Sattva, as the embodiment of that supreme reality, that's what takes me further. So with that, we see more sadhanas coming up tomorrow on our final day, and we'll tackle that tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha.